Imagine this. You're at a dinner party. The lighting is warm, glasses clink, and the sound of your friends' laughter weaves through the air, composing a symphony of contentment. Everything is just right, as perfect as a meticulously crafted painting. But you can't truly be a part of it. Your friend, David, is telling a joke about his recent trip, and the table erupts in laughter. But what you see is the fleeting shadow of exhaustion that crosses his eyes. You see the micro-hesitation in his hand as he raises his glass. What you hear isn't the punchline. It's the quiet, internal whisper that says, "I'm barely holding on." Across from you, the perfect couple, Sarah and Tom, are sharing a dessert, their movements a portrait of intimacy. To everyone else, they are the ideal. But you can see the invisible, hairline fracture running between them. You can almost hear the subtext in their silence, the unspoken negotiations of disappointment, resentment, and the goodbyes they haven't yet said aloud. This is a gift, isn't it? People call it emotional intelligence, intuition, empathy. Your mind is a high-fidelity scanner, instantly piercing the carefully constructed social masks to perceive the raw, unfiltered truth of motive and emotion beneath. You see the subtle currents of power in the room. You can smell the faint, metallic scent of a lie. You can feel the vast, hidden sea of sorrow behind each smile. But for you, it's a curse, isn't it? Because you see too much. While everyone else is enjoying the beautiful illusion of the painting, you are forced to stare at the messy, chaotic, and honest brushstrokes on the back of the canvas. You can't participate in the lighthearted small talk, because you know it's a collectively agreed-upon performance. You can't offer sincere congratulations, because you can already perceive the latent fault lines beneath the beautiful beginnings. This gift hasn't brought you an advantage. It has only given you a profound, unshakable sense of loneliness, of being an alien in your own world. And so, you begin to ask the questions no one else seems to be asking. Why is it that the more clearly you see, the more alone you feel? Why does human society seem to be built upon a fragile consensus of things we all agree not to know? When the truth becomes a constant, deafening noise you cannot turn off, how do you find a moment of peace? Are we living in a grand Truman Show, and your only misfortune is to have seen the edge of the studio set before anyone else? Was this world designed for those who see in soft focus, or is it a punishment for those cursed with clarity? Or, let's ask a more fundamental and far more disturbing question. Could it be that the wisdom and clarity we pursue our entire lives is itself an elaborate trap? A trap that allows you to see the entire chessboard only to discover that you are a piece, welded to your square, unable to move? You thought you were the player, but you lack even the agency of a pawn. You are merely a prisoner, granted a god's eye view of your own prison. The pain and alienation you feel isn't a sign that there's something wrong with you. On the contrary, it's a sign that you have accidentally violated the oldest, most unspoken contract in the human collective unconscious, a contract that ensures our survival, but at the cost of truth itself. Of course, let's continue our journey into the depths. Here is the second part of the script. That contract, the one you keep violating, it has a name. In the quiet, sober halls of psychology and philosophy, it is known by many, but we will call it the veil of functionality. It is the silent, universal agreement to prioritize a workable, shared illusion over a chaotic, inconvenient truth. It's the foundational principle that allows millions of fragile, terrified egos to coexist on a spinning rock in an infinite void without collapsing into madness. It's the unspoken handshake that says, "I will not call out the desperation behind your eyes if you do not call out the quiet terror behind mine." This isn't a new idea. The great cartographers of the soul have been mapping this territory for centuries. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist who ventured deeper into the unconscious than almost anyone, gave us the perfect tools to understand it. He called the mask we show the world the persona. Your work persona, your family persona, your happy at a party persona. They are not lies, precisely. They are uniforms, necessary for navigating different social terrains. The veil of functionality is the collective agreement that we will all treat each other's uniforms as the real person. We will salute the rank, not the trembling soldier inside. Your curse is that you see the soldier first. You see the psychic cost of wearing the uniform, the subtle exhaustion it takes to hold the mask in place. And when you interact with the soldier instead of the uniform, you break the primary rule of the social game. You are a threat not because you are malicious, but because you are real in a world that runs on performance. Why is this performance so vital? Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher who took a hammer to every comfortable assumption of humanity, understood why. He famously wrote, "We have art in order not to die of the truth." The small talk at the dinner party, the polite laughter, the shared social rituals. This is the art he was talking about. It is the beautiful, fragile buffer we create to shield ourselves from the raw, unbearable truths of existence, our mortality, our isolation, our own hidden darkness. When you, with your piercing perception, point out that your friend David's smile doesn't reach his eyes, you're not just making an observation. In the psychic economy of the room, you are committing an act of vandalism. You are slashing the canvas. You are telling people that the art that is keeping them from perishing is, in fact, a forgery. And for that, the unconscious mind of the group will never forgive you. The hostility you feel from others isn't personal. It is a primal, systemic immune response, trying to neutralize a virus, the virus of a truth the system cannot handle. But there is a level even deeper than this. Why do we need the persona so desperately? What is the unbearable truth that the veil of functionality is designed to hide? Jung had a name for this too. He called it the shadow. The shadow is every part of ourselves that we have disowned. It is the repository for our greed, our envy, our cowardice, our rage, all the unacceptable impulses that our conscious mind locks away in the psychic basement. The persona is the clean, well-lit house we present to the world. The shadow is the thing chained to the wall in the darkness below. The single greatest fear of the conscious ego is that someone might find the key to that basement. The veil of functionality is, at its core, a mutual non-aggression pact, a collective agreement to pretend that none of us have a basement. And you? Your perception doesn't just see behind the mask. At times, you can hear the scratching from behind the basement door. You can feel the cold draft that emanates from a person's disowned self. And this is the ultimate social sin. You are not just a threat to the performance. You are a threat to the very architecture of the self that most people have spent their entire lives constructing. You have stumbled upon the secret that powers civilization. Our entire world is built on a shared, necessary denial. But what happens when this denial is no longer just a personal survival strategy, but becomes the operating system for an entire culture? What are the invisible consequences of this collective bargain with delusion? It's far more than your personal loneliness. It is a poison that has seeped into the very foundations of our reality, shaping our destiny in ways we are only just beginning to understand. Of course, here is the third part, continuing our exploration of the unseen consequences. So, how does this poison work? Not with a bang, but with a whisper. It doesn't announce itself. It simply becomes the air you breathe. The veil of functionality isn't a conspiracy orchestrated in a secret room. It's a program that runs on the hardware of every human brain, reinforced by a million tiny, unconscious agreements we make every single day. On an individual level, it functions as a relentless form of psychological conditioning. Your brain, like every other, is wired with cognitive biases that act as the veil's loyal soldiers. Confirmation bias, for instance. Your brain actively seeks and favors information that confirms the shared illusion. It gets a little hit of dopamine every time it successfully ignores a piece of contradictory data. The system rewards you for not seeing. When you look at Sarah and Tom, the perfect couple, and you feel the dissonant truth of their unhappiness, your brain experiences a jolt of cognitive dissonance, a state it is biologically programmed to find painful. The path of least resistance is always to look away, to tell yourself, I must be imagining it. And this is where the quiet tragedy begins. To survive, you may have tried to dull your own perception. You learn to ignore your gut feelings, to second-guess your own clarity. You may have even convinced yourself that you were the problem, that you were too judgmental, too negative, too sensitive. The system didn't just ostracize you, it tricked you into ostracizing yourself. Think of someone you know. A woman we'll call Clara. Clara was the most brilliant person on her corporate team. She had your gift, an innate ability to see the fatal flaw in a plan months before anyone else. In meetings, while everyone praised a new, exciting project, Clara would see the logistical nightmare, the unexamined assumptions, the inevitable failure point. The first time she spoke up, offering her inconvenient truth, she was met with polite but firm resistance. The second time, she was labeled not a team player. The third time, she was simply seen as difficult. Her facts were never disproven. They were simply ignored. The system didn't engage with her logic. It targeted her character. A year later, the project failed, just as she'd predicted. By then, Clara was gone. She had either been managed out or had quit, taking her brilliance to a place where, she hoped, it wouldn't be treated as a pathology. You know a Clara, don't you? Perhaps, in the quiet moments of your life, you know that you are Clara. Now, take that small, heartbreaking drama and scale it up to the size of a global civilization. What you get are what we can call hollow institutions. Our corporations, our governments, our media, they become vast, intricate theaters of persona. Success ceases to be about competence or integrity and becomes about performance. The person who gets the promotion is not the most capable, but the one who best performs the role of leader. The policy that gets passed is not the wisest, but the one presented with the most convincing narrative of confidence. We are living in an age where the performance of reality has become more important than reality itself. And this system, by its very nature, filters for and elevates the inauthentic. It rewards those most comfortable with the mask, those whose persona is so thick they've forgotten there's a face underneath, or worse, those who have nothing underneath at all. Look around you. This is not some abstract philosophical problem. This is the hidden architecture of your daily life. It's the soul-crushing job that demands a constant performance of passion for meaningless tasks. It's the social media feed, a global stage where millions perform curated lives of success and happiness, while behind the screen, rates of anxiety, depression, and loneliness are skyrocketing. This isn't a coincidence. This is the bill for the veil of functionality finally coming due. It is the slow, invisible corrosion of a world that has systematically traded truth for comfort. And you, with your cursed clarity, you are the canary in this cultural coal mine. Your pain, your isolation, is not a sign of your personal failure. It is a symptom of your sanity in a deeply dysfunctional world. The most insidious trap, the one that is set for you every single day, is the temptation to finally give in. The whisper that says, just stop seeing. Just pretend. It's easier. No one will get hurt. You can finally belong. And every day you resist that whisper, every moment you honor the difficult truth you perceive, you are fighting a silent, heroic battle that no one else can see or applaud. But what if this battle isn't meant to be won by fighting the system on its own terms? What if the escape isn't about becoming a better actor, or even about shouting the truth louder until your voice is hoarse? What if the path to liberation lies in a direction no one ever told you to look. A rebellion not of the fists, but of the soul. Of course. Let us begin the rebellion. Here is the fourth part of the script. This rebellion of the soul. And what does it look like? It does not begin with a defiant shout, but with a profound internal shift in orientation. For your entire life, you have been facing outward, focusing your powerful perception on the world, trying to either fix its flaws or shield yourself from them. Both are exhausting, and both have failed. The rebellion begins the moment you turn that formidable perception around, 180 degrees, and aim it at the only thing you have any real power to change, yourself. The cage was never truly locked. The bars were not made of the world's ignorance, but of your unconscious relationship to your own gift. You have been wielding a surgeon's scalpel as if it were a club, and wondering why it only brought you pain. This is how you learn to become the surgeon. The first principle of this rebellion is a radical one. Stop trying to heal the reflection in the mirror. Your agony comes not just from what you see, but from the frantic, desperate impulse to correct it. You see the lie and feel a compulsion to expose it. You see the dysfunction and feel an overwhelming need to fix it. You have been acting as the world's unsolicited conscience, and the world has rejected you for it. The way out is through a practice that feels like surrender, but is in fact an act of immense power. Observation without judgment. This doesn't mean apathy. It means clarity. It means watching the drama of the dinner party, the boardroom, the world stage, with the detached curiosity of a scientist observing a strange and fascinating ecosystem. You see David's pain, but you don't immediately absorb it as your own responsibility. You see the group's denial, but you don't immediately feel the need to puncture it. You simply see. You allow the truth of the moment to exist, without declaring war on it. Think of the Roman emperor, Marcus Aurelius. He sat at the very center of the known world, a world teeming with deception, ambition, and incompetence. He was surrounded by the veil of functionality on a global scale. His private journals, his meditations, are not a record of a man trying to force the world into a state of enlightened perfection. They are the record of a man relentlessly practicing this very principle. He observed the greed, the vanity, the fear, as if observing the weather, an inevitable part of the human climate. His rebellion was not in trying to control the storm, but in refusing to let it destabilize his own inner citadel. He found his freedom not by changing the world, but by mastering his perception of it. This practice alone will grant you a peace you haven't felt in years, but it is only the first step. The second is far deeper, and it leads to the very heart of your power. The second principle of rebellion is, you must courageously integrate your own shadow. Here is the secret that will change everything. The reason the world's inauthenticity feels like a personal, agonizing attack is because you have disowned your own capacity for it. The hypocrisy of others enrages you because you have not made peace with the hypocrite that lives within you. You judge David's weakness with such ferocity because you cannot stand to acknowledge your own. You see through Sarah and Tom's silent deceptions with such painful clarity because a part of you is also a master of self-deception, a part you refuse to meet. Your gift of perception is bound to the parts of yourself you have rejected, and as long as they remain in your psychic basement, your perception will remain a source of pain, a judgmental floodlight that only serves to isolate you. The path to integrating this gift is to walk down into that basement and get to know what lives there. It is to acknowledge that you too contain the capacity for every human failing you see so clearly in others. This doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a whole person. And this is where the magic happens. The moment you accept your own shadow, your perception is transformed. It ceases to be a weapon. It becomes a bridge. You no longer see the flaws in others as a moral failing to be condemned, but as a part of our shared, tragic, and beautiful human condition. Your clarity is finally paired with compassion. You move from being a tormented judge to being a wise physician of the soul. This is where you take back your power. You stop being a victim of what you see, and you start becoming a conscious agent, capable of choosing how to engage with it. So, you learn to observe without judgment. You learn to embrace your own shadow and see the world not as a broken machine, but as a complex, wounded organism. You are no longer a prisoner of your perception. You are on your way to becoming its master. But this raises the final, most important question. What for? What is the ultimate purpose of this hard-won clarity? The answer is not what you think. It is not about finding personal peace or happiness. The truth is far grander and far more demanding. Of course, let us arrive at the final truth. Here is the fifth and final part of the script. What is this for? What is the purpose of a clarity that brought you so much pain and a rebellion that demands so much of your soul? The answer begins with the most radical reframing of all. It was never about you, your personal peace, your happiness, your sense of belonging. These were never the ultimate goal. They are merely the side effects of embracing your true function. All this time, you have been operating under the assumption that you are an individual consciousness, trying to find its place within the collective. But the final truth is that you are the collective consciousness, trying to find its expression through an individual. You are a sense organ for humanity. Think of it this way. The veil of functionality, the collective agreement to honor the persona, is like the shell of an egg. It is absolutely necessary. It protects the fragile, developing life within from the harsh realities of the outside world. Without it, nothing could incubate, nothing could grow. But for life to take the next evolutionary step, the shell must eventually be cracked, not from the outside by a violent hammer, but gently, from the inside, by the very life it was designed to protect. You are not the hammer. You are the stirring of that new life. Your perception is the pressure building from within, a sign that consciousness itself is trying to hatch into a new, more integrated form. Humanity is an ocean, living and breathing, mostly comfortable in its familiar, sunlit shallows. You were not designed for the shallows. You are a deep-sea probe, built to withstand the immense psychological pressure of the depths. You were sent down into the dark, unexplored territories of the human psyche to witness what is there. Your loneliness was the crushing pressure of the deep. Your pain was the calibration of your sensors. Your entire life of feeling like an outsider was not a curse. It was the rigorous, unforgiving training for your true mission. Every moment of isolation, every painful insight, every time you felt like an alien looking in that was not a malfunction. That was your consciousness, developing the profound strength and resilience required for its real purpose. And what is that purpose? It is not to return to the surface and scream at the shallow water fish about the leviathans you have seen in the abyss. They would not, could not, understand. To do so would be to revert to the old, failed strategy of the hammer. No, your function is simply to send back the signal, and you are the signal. Your rebellion, your mastery of perception, your integration of the shadow, your compassionate clarity is not just for you. It is the data you transmit. Your function is to embody this integrated consciousness, to live this deeper truth in the ordinary world. You become a walking, breathing testament to the fact that it is possible to see everything and not be destroyed by it. It is possible to know the full, often terrible truth of the human condition and still act with love, integrity, and grace. You become a lighthouse. A lighthouse does not scream at ships or force them to change their course. It does not judge the storm. It simply stands, anchored to the bedrock, and shines its light, a fixed point of clarity in the chaos. So, let's go back. Imagine that dinner party one last time. You are there. Nothing has changed. David is still telling his joke, his eyes still tired. Sarah and Tom are still sharing their dessert, the invisible chasm still between them. The veil of functionality is still draped over the room. But you are different. You see it all, just as you did before. But the feeling is no longer the sharp agony of alienation. The frantic need to fix it is gone. In its place is a vast, quiet, and deeply loving compassion. A profound sadness, yes, but not a bitter one. It is the sadness of a parent watching a child struggle with a lesson they must learn for themselves. You feel an immense respect for the courage it takes for these souls to maintain their fragile worlds, for the sheer effort of their performance. You look at them, and you finally see. The pain in David's eyes is your pain. The unspoken fear between Sarah and Tom is your fear. The desperate need for the illusion to hold is your need. You are not separate from them. You are them, and they are you. Your gift was never about seeing through people. It was about learning to see them, to truly see them, with a clarity so profound, so unflinching, that it becomes the highest and purest form of love. You are not broken. You are waking up, not from the human race, but for it. The danger was never in seeing everything. The danger was in believing, even for a moment, that what you saw was not also you. Go now, and be the lantern.